Well, welcome back on the AM show. Time now for us to get into the nitty-gritty when it comes to Green Ghana Day and how far we have come. Over the last few years, we have engaged in this, and there are so many questions to ask in terms of what we've attained, how far we've come, and what the way forward is. Well, Sweetie Abochi, you're looking green this morning.
Unintentionally. But I heard you say Maba. Yeah, I heard you say Maba, and I thought, I didn't know you speak Ghana. Or is it just that you feel frustrated with this?
When the frustration comes, sometimes you switch into certain languages. They are lucky I didn't speak Dagbani today, but a bit. Okay. Just very, very little.
Yeah.
I am restricted to hunger and thirst. Gom malma and kum malma. Oh, one is sleep, I think. What's that?
Please give me water.
Oh, okay. So that's accelerated. I dare you to say something.
It's okay, thank you.
But Green Ghana Day, even before we get into the conversation with our guests and all of that, what do you make of this initiative over the last few years and some of what we've been watching in terms of some of those who have been planting and the gains that have been made?
I think it's a great step in the right direction because climate change is here. We need to make conscious efforts that when we're felling trees, we're replanting them because we need a tree. They say the day the last tree dies, the last man dies. But also there are the nuances that we want to probe right now. How do you know, how do you count 42 million trees that you've planted so far? How many out of those 42 million, like the minister said, are doing well? And what are the issues that are coming up? So I'm just curious to get more clarity really on where this goes. And I know that dealing with climate change is not just planting trees yearly does not suffice. So what else can we do to ensure that we're actually tackling the issue and not just, planting trees because we want to commemorate Green Ghana Day? So
not just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
Because if you go, parks and gardens, we've had our own situation. Even in Accra, some of what Nkrumah did and areas that were supposed to be, it reminds me of some other parts of the world I've been to where in every community, there's that area, park-like area people can go. And it's good, it's refreshing. The more plants you have in your environment, the better the air quality where you live, right? So it's a good thing, but you cannot expect that just because it's a good initiative, just like free SHS and the problems that bedevil it, you cannot say that just because it's a good initiative, we should turn our eye away from some crucial issues, like cost.
Yes.
Like how many of these have survived? Like who has got what? Who is getting the contracts? How many of these seedlings, I mean, how much did we purchase the seedlings? Right. How much did we give them out for, if for free in most instances? What have been the gains? If you can't make a proper cost-benefit analysis of anything in your own life, you would make a cost-benefit analysis and realize that, I'm getting this from this. Maybe at this point, it makes no sense to continue doing this because at this point, the cost is more than the benefit. We need to do that. And we've always shied away from that. The best we've done is to say that, we spent X amount on this number of seedlings and a few other things. But you see, this is where it becomes problematic. In another jurisdiction, down to the last seedling and who got it.
It's accounted for.
I mean, goats have chewed some of the... those are in there. Yeah. But anyway, would you like to bring in our guest this morning? Joining us for the discussion?
We have first on our list of guests this morning is Alhassan Suyini, the Deputy Ranking Member for Lands and Forestry Committee in Parliament. You're welcome to the program. I think
Mr. Suyini, you'd have to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Right. We'll also be joined.
Thank you very much, and let me say good morning to you both, and good morning to the viewers.
Yeah, you're matching with Benjamin this morning. I don't know what the occasion.
I don't know why Hassan decided to copy me. He's copying me. Hassan, are you not copying me?
I agree. He watched you this morning.
You saw me somewhere this morning and decided to copy me.
I watched you earlier, and I noticed your frustration with the
blunt
Wi-Fi-less Wi-Fi. And I saw how you were dressed, so I decided to copy, but with a matching hat. That's the difference.
You've done one better. You've gone one better. Anyway.
Well, we'll also be joined by Emmanuel Ansomani Kranting, who's project coordinator, climate change and well-being at Pen Plus Bites. Emmanuel, welcome to the program.
Welcome, madam. Good morning, and good morning to your discerning viewers and listeners.
Good morning. It's good to have you here. And then finally, we have Palgrave Boakye Danquah, government spokesperson on governance and security. Palgrave, it's good to have you join us.
It's good to be here this morning, and a very good morning to the colleagues on the panel and to them. You both look fairly this morning on TV.
Well, thank you. Let's get into the conversations. Let me start by saying that Alhaji Suhuyini, you've been waxing lyrical about some of the issues that are surrounding this Green Ghana Day, talking about costs, talking about lack of transparency. So just situate what the issues really are, as you say.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this discussion this morning. I think that some of the issues that I've been raising, first of all, have to be viewed from the context of how well intended we all thought that this exercise was going to be. And so it has to be established before anything else is said that it is a noble idea to want to reserve a day once in a year, if for nothing at all, to conscientize all of us to see how important it is for us to protect our environment and to increase our stock of trees because of the benefits that we get from it, improved atmosphere and all of that. So it's a noble idea for us to want to do this. Unfortunately, a number of targets have been missed. For example, during the launch, I recall the minister in 2021 gave the indication that this was going to be largely private sector driven and that the funds for this exercise yearly was going to come from private sector donations. In fact, a committee, I recall, was set up to oversee the mobilization of funds from the private sector to drive this exercise. Unfortunately, over the years, no accountability has been made with regard to that area. What we do know as members of the Lands and Forestry Committee, however, is that government continue to pump in millions and millions of Ghana cedis every year to support this program. Now, I am of the view that it lacks transparency because you started with a very interesting question. How do you count 41 million trees planted, and how are you able to determine how many of those trees have actually survived over the period? That is a difficult thing to do, especially when the ministry doesn't seem to be minded to put in place a structure or a process to make it easy for us to verify how many trees are actually planted yearly and how many have actually survived the vagaries of the weather and other threats. We at the committee a number of times have requested to even get data from the ministry to be able to do our own assessment. If we had that data, I'm sure by now as a committee we would have even traveled around the country on our own to assess the impact of this. But the ministry will continue to promise to give us that data, but has not been forthcoming with the data. But you see, what is obvious in the implementation is that, one, we do not know how contracts for supply of seedlings are awarded. What we hear around the corridors of power at the ministry and at the Forestry Commission is that these contracts are just handed over to people without any competitive bidding at sometimes very fantastic prices, inflated prices. And so it will be important for us to find out how these seedling contractors are selected and how the contracts are awarded. Only last year, you recall that the Ashanti Region Seedling Growers Association had a press conference at which they alleged that government was owing them 28 million Ghana cedis for seedlings they had supplied for 2021 Green Ghana and 2022 Green Ghana. And so as at 2023, the amount owed to these seedling suppliers in the Ashanti region, according to them at their press conference, was 28 million Ghana cedis.
Okay.
And that is debt on Ghana's books. That is debt that you and I have to pay. And so it's important that we know how those debts are accrued, so that when we are paying it, we know we are paying value for money. That is an issue that is of worry to me personally. Again, the aim of this exercise is, like we have all already stated, to improve our forest cover and to gain the benefits from it. And so it becomes ironic when you have a government that wants us to believe that this exercise is important because of the benefits we'll get from it.
Right.
Turn around and engage in policies and activities that is counterproductive. That
what kind of policies are you talking about? Are you referring to?
For example, you have His Excellency the President declassify existing forests, like the Achimota forest. Use Executive Instrument 144 to declassify about 360 acres of the Achimota forest land. And what declassification means is that those areas are considered, are no longer forest reserves. And so they do not have the protection that forest reserves are supposed to have. And so any form of development and construction can now take place on those lands.
Okay, please hold for me. I mean, some of your points have been noted. Now, Paul Grave speaks for the government, so I'll let him respond to some of the issues that you have raised. Paul Grave.
Policies, if I could just underboard, this is just the Achimota forest. So you have the government, declassifying existing forests when they are, through this Green Ghana, trying to suggest to us that there's a need for us to green our country. And yet existing forests are declassified and the land sold to themselves and private partners to put up construction that will affect the integrity of the existing forest. Then you also have the lack of political will to fight galamsey, illegal mining. And in this case, you have even sometimes leading members of the party engaging in mining in forest reserves, like the Tano Nimrimi Forest Reserve, where you had Akonta mining, undertaking mining in that forest when the laws do not allow it.
Okay,
and
Mr. Sweeney.
Before even investigations could take place, the president, cleared Akonta mining of any wrongdoing. I mean, acts like this do not, if you like, align with the agenda of Green Ghana.
Right. Your point has been made. Now, Paul Greboache Dankwa, you're online with us. How does all these issues he's raised sit with you? Or what is the government saying, your government spokesperson?
No, so thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me greet your viewing public and listeners. And say that Green Ghana Day is one of the initiatives of government to eradicate climate change and also contribute towards everything. I've heard it.
Paul Grave, very quickly, I don't know where you are, but your connection is patchy, so we can have a fruitful conversation.
Can
I suggest you move a bit and speak up.
Is it clear?
It's better now. Okay,
sure. So you had mentioned the amount of money that had been invested into Green Ghana from government, and it's primarily very private-led as well. We are aware how expensive it is. Over the years, from 2021, when this was launched, we've done about 42 million trees that have been planted. And the survival rate is about 73.3% from monitoring and evaluation. I'm surprised that Suhini hasn't got the data, as he said, he's not received, but this data is available. And we have been planting rosewood, mahogany, wawa, acacia, royal palm, almond, etc. It's the same thing that we're going to do this morning as well. The president and other Dankwa is going to plant at the Nicholson Park at Bemakam to contribute our own legacy in terms of eradicating deforestation and afforestation and ensuring that we are keeping the climate very healthy. I think that the issues are very clear, that this is not something that government is doing because it fits the policy agenda but it's our responsibility as a country to ensure that the forests that have been degraded over the years and the trees that have been cut over the years are restored to elongate our life. You are aware, as I stated over and over again, that when the last tree dies, the last one dies. And so our government is very strong and committed to see to it that over the years from 2021, trees that have not been planted, those trees are planted. So this year, we're planting about 10 million seedlings.
Okay.
Those seedlings are picked across from the various forestry commission and various departments across the country.
Let me interject here for a second. You mentioned monitoring and evaluation. I was hoping you shed more light on that. What specific activities form part of this monitoring and evaluation? Paints the picture.
I think it's basic. People's understanding of monitoring and evaluation. We have teams that goes to the various places where the trees are planted, because often we have quotas that are given in the southern part, in the northern part, in areas of mining, in areas of construction where trees have been cut down. We give very, very specific quotas. So we have seen from the various ministries and parts.
Your line is breaking up again, but are you saying that you're able to track every single tree that you've planted, and you have teams that go around to monitor these trees?
Very much. That's what I'm saying. Yes, we have teams.
How exactly have you done that?
Say that again.
How exactly have you done that?
No, I mean, however monitoring is done. I mean, so these
You're saying monitoring, Palgrave. I'm asking you, how exactly have you done that? You're telling me how the same way monitoring is done. I'm asking, what has gone into the monitoring? What equipment are you using? Where are you going? How are you coming by the metrics? If you say monitoring has been done, you should be able to answer those questions.
Benjamin, we have teams that go to the various places where the trees have been planted. In the northern sector, we have the Forestry Commission that deploys teams to go in. I mean, they go in with their tools, they go in with their equipment, and they number. I mean, these trees that have been planted over the years have names, their locations where trees have been planted. So we mark those places, count the trees, we count survive, count those that have not survived, and we will put the date together.
You're breaking up again, Palgrave. You really need to reposition and maybe stay in one place. We lost a few seconds of your submission, so let's try again.
Yes, as stated that over the years from 2021, we've planted a lot of trees and seedlings, numbering to about 42 million. And I'm stating that the record on the data states that we have had a survival rate of about 73.3%. And so you recall that we started with 5 million trees in 2021, came to 20 million trees in 2022, came to 10 million in 2023, and then multiplication of 10 million again 2023. Much as we have exceeded expectations in those years. And as stated, we have teams from the Forestry Commission that have gone always to make sure that these trees that are planted, especially those that are given in quotas to mining sites, to forest sites and forest reserves, we know those places. I mean, without, and then also the individual people that came to pick up. There's always a data. When you come and pick up your seedling, you write your name, you write your location, and we have teams that go in and out to make sure that those trees that are planted are surviving.
Now, first off, you made mention of the fact that 73.3% of the seedlings or the trees had survived. That is not correct, if I'm to stick to the mathematics. Now, over here, we are told that 30 million of the trees were thriving at different stages of growth. 30 million divided by 42 million times 100 will give you a little over 71%. So that's just maybe a correction you can take moving forward.
71, 72, 73, still in the 70s.
71 is not 73 for statistical purposes. But moving the conversation forward, if I were to ask you, before I go to Mr. Asomani of PenPlus Bytes, if I were to ask you, on the back of, in the last few years, we had conversations about the forest cover and the quantum leaps, if you like, gargantuan increments in loss of forest cover. Then we have what Alhassan Suhuyini referenced, where some lands, like the Achimota forest, that were hitherto protected in certain ways, are now open. There are windows open for people to engage in different activities in them, and we can reference the Sir John issue. I will not go there. Among other developments. If I asked you, let's even throw away the numbers, our environment on the back of Galamsey and everything, what are the real gains we have made from these trees? Not just about who has got a contract and how financially it has impacted, but our environment. What would you say?
Government has been very committed. And in the commitment of government has set a process of ensuring that we come forward that has repeated years. Obviously, 4 years having consistent growth of focus of government acting every 2 years to 3 single years. You have that it's not going to take.
Palgrave, so I'm going to have to do this because it's not helping me, it's not helping our viewers. I don't know, but no one can hear what you're saying. I'm sorry. And everyone who is watching can understand. I'll move to Mr. Asumening and we'll see whether we can get a better connection for Palgrave Boakye Danquah. Emmanuel Asumening Kranting is Project Coordinator, Climate Change and Wellbeing, Pen Plus Bite. Emmanuel, good morning.
Good morning, Benjamin. Good morning to your audience.
Right. We've had this conversation for a number of years now, and sometimes it is seen that we're putting the needle on the point, but our country has a history and we have to do that. So, brilliant initiative has been mentioned already, but from where you sit, what is your reading so far of how far we have come, the gains that we have made, and maybe the question of money that we've pumped into this and whether we're getting the accurate value for that money?
Right, okay. So I would say that indeed, undoubtedly, the Green Ghana...
Emmanuel, you'd have to speak up, please.
Hello?
Yes, better. Let's keep it like that.
Right. Okay, so I was saying that the Green Ghana Day, obviously, I would say it has been very loud. It's a very laudable initiative, if I should put it. It's been very significant in ensuring that we restore our lost cover and all of that. But from where I sit, I work with an organization called Pen Plus Bite. And at the heart of everything we try to do, we try to incorporate technology into everything. And so we are looking at it from the angle of where we can incorporate technology into the Green Ghana Day initiative. So for 4 years running, if I should put it, since 2021, we've been planting trees, and we've had the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. Abujinapo, saying that we've planted over 42 million trees. But the question is, how are we incorporating technology into all of this? Because we live in a digital era now, and we can't say we are using manual means to sort of update these trees, looking at how many are doing well and all of that. And so we have issued a statement, and I would want to engage with the statement or speak more about the statement. So we are calling for the incorporation of technology, or if I should put it, expedite action in using energy-efficient technology to reduce energy consumption and carbon emissions. So, for instance, if you look at the forest, the places we planted the trees over the past 3 years, one question you would ask is, how are we monitoring those deforestation activities? How are we tracking those reforestation efforts? How are we using technology to do that? And so I believe that it is about time we shift the conversation towards that angle where we can say that, so for us, we are calling for the use of remote sensing and geographic information system technology, for instance, so when I talk of those systems, I'm talking about the use of drones and ground robots, for instance, to pick the coordinates and to monitor the reforestation or the tree plantings that have gone on for the past years. So how have we picked the coordinates of trees that we planted over the years? And how are we using technology to monitor those ones? And beyond that, we are also looking at awareness creation in general. I know we are all calling on every citizen to come on board to ensure that we plant more trees. But beyond today, what are we doing to address climate change? Agencies like the EPA, beyond today, the tree planting and all of that, what are we doing to ensure that individuals buy into the whole concept of climate change? Because believe you me, Benjamin, there are many people who still don't believe that climate change exists. And so I think we have to also look at that angle very well. So we come back again to what can we do? So we at 10 Plus Bytes, as I earlier mentioned, we are saying that we should leverage digital platforms. We have, I know the EPA, they have their social media pages, they have their website and all of that. How are they using it to engage the ordinary Ghanaians? How are they using their Facebook page, for instance? Now TikTok is on the rise. How are they using TikTok to create short videos, educating individuals about the need for us to pay attention to the problems the environmental problems we have as a country? And so we have, these are all, if I should put it, there are myriad of issues we need to address. Yes, we have to, the tree planting has been going on. We've achieved some gains, but these are some of the bottlenecks I believe we need to address. Yeah, thank you.
I would like to pose that question back to you. Just out of curiosity, what are you doing, your organization, to ensure that you're increasing awareness beyond today, that is? I mean, you've questioned what the EPA and the ministries are doing about it, but just help me understand if you're doing anything from your end of the conversation.
Yes, thank you for the question. So for us at 10 Plus Bytes, we've been in operation for the past 2 decades, and we have been looking at, when it comes to climate change and well-being within that sector, first and foremost, we deal more with journalists. And so I'm sure some people, your colleagues in the newsroom, can attest to this, that sometime last year, we convened journalists in a 3-day training, building their competence when it comes to climate change reporting, how they can raise awareness, how they can look at which specific issues they should focus on when it comes to climate change reporting and all of that. Beyond that also, we conducted a research to serve as a baseline study to help us appreciate how far we've come as a country in trying to address climate change in Ghana. And the findings have been very revealing, if I should put it, and they have informed and influenced policy directions. We've engaged the EPA, we've engaged the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources, we've engaged MESI on our findings. And so there are so much we are doing as an organization towards addressing the impact of climate change.
Right. Hold for me. Let's try and get back Palgrave if we've established a better connection. Palgrave, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me? Is it better now?
Yes, it's better now. I think you were reacting to Benjamin's questions. You can go ahead and complete your thoughts on the gains that we've made.
No, I think that, you see, the gains is very clear. 2021, we planted 10 million seedlings and trees. We gained 67% survival. 2022, we planted 20 million seedlings. So 2021, we planted 5 million seedlings. 2022, we planted 20 million seedlings. We had 72% survival. Last year, we did 10 million seedlings. We had 81% survival. You know, I'm not too sure how Benjamin did his calculating and got a 71, but I won't debate on mathematics here. What we can say is that of the 42 million seedlings that we have planted, we've had a 70% above, survival. And I think that is key and significant because the government has been very, very transparent, even with how much government itself has supported and how much private sector has supported. 2021, government put in disbursed 2 million Ghana cedis. 2022, government disbursed another 2 million Ghana cedis. 2023, government disbursed 2.5 million Ghana cedis. And 2024, government disbursed 1.5 million Ghana cedis. But this is of the minimal of what it costs, because every time the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources would write letters to private companies and private sector to invest into it, NGOs to invest into it, and this is how we've been able to fund it.
I just have a brief follow-up. So you ask, for example, how I got my figures. I'm using what you're saying. The thought is that 30 million of these have survived. You say 42 million were planted. It's simple mathematics. If you divide the 30 by the 42 and multiply by 100, you get a little over 71%, Palgrave. So I was just drawing your attention to it that if the figures you are bandying about are to be taken into consideration, unless those are not the correct figures, it is not 73.3%. That was just what I was saying. It's a matter of, but the core of the question is, how do we justify? When we say, for example, 67% survived in 2021, 72% in 2022, and per the Daily Graphic story, a staggering 81% in 2023. What do we have to show? How do we justify this? It's not just about saying, oh, we had people on the ground and we sent these people in there to do. How do we justify this beyond just saying that we sent people into this area and that's how we are justifying it?
Benjamin, in every tree planting exercise all around the world, and I'm glad that the other gentleman spoke about technology, because there is the deployment of technology in ensuring that this data that comes back to feed analysis is accurate.
What technology are you using?
That's it. What that we use to the various places where these trees are planted, there are things that ground, because the forestry thing has visited across the length of various trees who go day out to monitor, to even talk to farmers, talk to the people that have planted, especially those demarcated areas where they have grown for last level tree plants. These are the monitoring that we are doing on the from 2021 to next, and that's the monitoring would be something no more, but as the monitoring for 2024 going forward.
All right. We struggled to hear you, Palgrave, but I would like to find out from you. I mean, Mr. Suhuyini made some comments about lack of transparency and that they'd written to the ministries for the data, but there's some sort of hush-hush treatment on making this data available to them. Do you have an explanation for that? Why this data you also talk about that, you know, that comes from your monitoring and evaluation, why isn't the data made public? So even if not for us citizens, for members of parliament who sit on the Lands and Forestry Commission.
For public scrutiny.
Yeah.
I don't think the data is not available. I am sure that when the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources had the press conference at the Ministry of Information earlier on this week, it was very clear that he sent out a lot of data, and anyone is willing to receive data. The Ministry has a
it's difficult to hear you because you keep breaking up. And let's try again.
Hello, can you hear?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. So the data is available. So there's a committee that this tree planting exercise over the years. The data is available. That is, Alhaji Suhuyini is minded, can request for that data. There's no data that is being hidden from anyone at all.
But he said he's on the line. Alhaji Suhuyini, Palgrave is saying that the data is available. You're saying that you've written to the ministry and you've not been given the data. How do you respond to that? He's on the line saying these things.
Honorable, good morning to you, Honorable.
Good morning, my brother. The data that Palgrave is referring to is perhaps the same data that he's sharing with you. And that is not verifiable. That is not enough for purposes of scrutiny. If you tell me, for example, and even he himself gets the figures confused, and that's why perhaps he's having this mathematical, disagreement with Benjamin. In 2021, for example, the intention of the ministry was to plant 5 million trees. At the end of the day, they reported that they had planted 7 million trees. Now, the question you ask is, where are the trees being planted? Once you have that answer, then you can verify when the ministry says 71% of the trees planted have, survived. But in the absence of the information regarding where these trees have been planted, if the ministry or minister throws 71% survival rate at you, that is not information that you can work with and actually speak to with confidence that indeed it is true that 71% of the trees planted have survived. And you see, when I speak of transparency, I speak of it not only in relation to the procurement contracts, but also in relation to the way the whole exercise is monitored and evaluated. Anybody who doubts this, and I challenge your news team to take this up. After today, visit the district offices of the Forestry Commission. Go to the district assemblies. You will find seedlings that have been left uncollected, unattended to, and unplanted, that perhaps may have been supplied by seedling growers for the purpose of Green Ghana. Go to those offices after today, because every year it happens. In fact, the last time, I think I saw a news report on it on one of the TV stations. I can't remember which one immediately. But it happens. They just dump the seedlings, and in some cases, they are not even planted. So how do you even account for them? And yet they are paid for by hard-earned, Ghanaian taxpayers' money. Here, when he talks about evaluation, in the past, and I'm sure now, I haven't received a call yet, the District Forestry Commission officers will make allocations to some, I think, I hate seeing myself as an important person, but for want of a better description, for some important persons in the community. And so I am allocated seedlings every year to assist in the Green Ghana exercise. And in some years, I have taken part. I have actually gone for the allocations. There are times that I think last 2 years or last year, I don't remember, I wasn't in town, so I told them to give it to those who were willing to, other agencies or organizations that were willing to also plant them. But I'm saying that no one has ever even come to me to find out where I have planted the trees that are allocated to me. And I'm sure it's same for many colleagues, because MPs are usually given these allocations. Okay. No one has ever come to find out where did you plant the seedlings. So Al-Hassan,
and
how are they performing?
Al-Hassan, yes. In a nutshell, it also means that if you have not been checked on in terms of the survival of your seedlings, then how can we say, how can even the figures we are bandying about be correct?
Be correct.
Right?
Exactly. That is my point. Even if the seedlings I have been given, no one has come to find out how they are faring. No one has ever checked on where they were planted and how they are faring. And I'm sure I speak for many out there who have received these seedlings and perhaps who have also decided to support this initiative. So it is important that we have, a transparent process of measuring how many seedlings are supplied, how in the first place the contracts are awarded, and how many seedlings are planted at the end of the day. Those that are those that are left and not planted, what happens to them? And are they added to, the other projects or programs that the Forestry Commission already undertakes? Like we all agree, it's a noble idea. it adds to the other initiatives that the Forestry Commission already engages in to improve our forest cover. But it is important that it is done well. In this country, and especially, forgive me, especially with this government, it's as if things are done in the form of box ticking. And little attention is paid to the impact of the things that are done. And let me just deviate a little and recall your presentation on this Wi-Fi in secondary schools. It will be reported by this government with pride that secondary schools have been provided with, Wi-Fi. And yet, the impact of that provision is not assessed by many. Meanwhile, over 56 million Ghana cedis would have been thrown at it. And somebody will be smiling all the way to the bank, and yet the students will have no Wi-Fi, and the political campaign will be heated up with a suggestion that Wi-Fi has been created and lives have been improved.
All right,
it's
Mr.
the same
Sweeney,
thing we are talking about when it comes to this Green Ghana project.
Right. Let me bring us back. Let me refocus the conversation. I see your concern. I mean, obviously, every Ghanaian should be concerned if monies are being pumped into this initiative and there's no way to track it. But you sit on the Lands and Forestry Commission in Parliament. How are you escalating this? You said you've requested for data, procurement processes, the data on the number of trees, how they are expending the monies involved. How are you ensuring that?
Data that Paul Graves says is already available. So maybe, Al-Hassan, you just need to speak to your colleague, Samuel Abu-Jinapor, because Paul Graves says the information is already available.
You see, that's the point I'm making. When you tell me, and sometimes I have this, disagreements with the minister very often. When you tell me that 71% of those, the seedlings planted have survived, and I tell you to show me where they are so that the committee can visit, it's not as if I am doubting what you are telling me. It is just that I am doing the work that I'm supposed to do, provide oversight. And it is not enough for me to just take your say-so and run with it as if they were facts. It is important that I know where these trees were planted, which organizations got the seedlings, and where did they plant them. Because you see, I'm telling you that when we scrutinize it that way, then the evidence of the weakness, in this exercise will be exposed. Like I have just given myself as an example, that no one has ever even checked on how the seedlings have been allocated yearly are doing.
But how are they doing? I'm curious.
Yes, I mean, some of them are doing well, but many are not, because, and again, that is another conversation.
Is it about the quality of seedlings that you were given?
So you see, it is through that assessment, through that impact assessment, that you will get to know if perhaps some seedlings can do better in some weather, or, the soil can be improved in some manner. But we don't have all of this done. We just, enjoy the publicity and the screens and the fanfare that comes with the day, and maybe the largesse that come with it also. But we do not take our time to look at how we can even improve upon the little gains, if there are any, and ensure that the country is better served with this initiative. Look, I have seen the performance review of the Forestry Services Division, and even as they also acknowledge that this is a novel idea, they are concerned about the, for example, debts that are owed to seedling suppliers.
And that's a conversation we've had for years.
Yes, they are concerned about the debts. But you see, it is beyond even the concern about the debts. It's important to know how the debts are accrued. It's important to know if the contracts that are even awarded in the first place are above board, if the rates that are charged for the seedlings are indeed, competitive. But all of this is shrouded in secrecy. You also have, the same Forestry Services Division complaining about the conversion of globally significant biodiversity areas, for timber cutting purposes. And that is in line with the point I made earlier about government policies and activities or actions that seem to counter the gains that we are seeking to make from this Green Ghana initiative.
Okay.
How do you have globally significant biodiversity areas and they have certain level of protections, and in fact you actually make gains as a result of it being located in your country, and you give licenses to people to begin to fell timber in those globally significant biodiversity areas. Clearly, the Forestry Services Division of the Forestry Commission is concerned about this. In the same manner, I think that we should all be concerned that government sees nothing wrong with declassifying forest reserves, when we could even actually use this Green Ghana to improve upon the natural forest reserve cover. So, for example,
so Al-Hassan,
that the Achimota forest is losing trees. There are some parts of the area that you are declassifying no longer even have trees, and so it is. Why don't you rather concentrate on integrating some of the trees that you are
Al-Hassan, so point made.
Yes.
Just to cap off the conversation, and I'll come to Paul Grave, then I'll go to Emmanuel, and then we'll wrap with you, Al-Hassan. Final thoughts. But before I do, if you look at what the sector minister has said, he says government is committed to sustainable forestry practices. He then says that this year's planting will focus on degraded forest reserves, with 6 million seedlings designated for those areas. And then another 4 million will be planted within communities that may come to those that were giving to you in the past, Al-Hassan, farms along degraded watershed areas and other public spaces. He also mentions we've been planting the likes of eucalyptus, mahogany, mango, coconut, and many others. Starting with you, Paul Grave, what are your expectations for this year's Green Ghana Day? What will be your message to Ghanaians before you go?
Very simple, that when you plant a tree, you elongate our lives. And to state that the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is going to plant his tree at the Nicholson Park at Bemakam, and also to state that earlier on last week, the sector minister, together with Ochehine, launched the One Student, One Tree initiative. And so we are confident that every single student in the various high schools will be planting trees as well today. And so let's go out and let's go planting. I will be planting my mango in this morning.
In where this morning? We missed that.
In Ebuakwa.
Ebuakwa?
Yes, Ebuakwa.
Okay. All right. Well, we wish you the best with that. Thank you so much for joining us. Paul Kwesi Dankwa is government spokesperson on governance and security. He was gracious enough to join us. Let's also bring in Emmanuel Asumeni-Koranting. Emmanuel.
Benjamin.
Emmanuel, your thoughts on that, please. What are your expectations of today's event, the Green Ghana Day, and how do you think moving forward we can harness technology to make it better?
Right. So I'm hoping that every Ghanaian will come out today and plant a tree. And as we look forward to seeing government, the ministry come out with concrete data on the trees that have been planted, I also think that the media can also help us demand for that data. And so we have to ensure that we get accurate data so that it will inform our future actions, because we cannot just continue planting trees each year without a proper audit. And beyond that, we are also calling that however we choose to do this, let's have technology at the back of our minds. Let's look at how we can use drone technology, for instance, to monitor some of these trees that have been planted. Let's pick the coordinates of where we plant these trees and ensure that we, on regular basis, we monitor them to ensure that we are able to do the needed due diligence, and as we move into the other years, if we are supposed to continue with this Green Ghana initiative, then we do so. If we need to revise our ways and means of doing this,
right,
we also do so. Yeah.
Emmanuel, thank you very much. Emmanuel Asumani-Kranting is Project Coordinator, Climate Change and Wellbeing with PEN Plasma.
So it looks like the president just arrived at Bema Camp to deliver a speech on this Green Ghana Day, and we're looking forward to that. We will go back there, but let's take final thoughts from Alhaji Suhuyini before we wrap up the conversation. Mr. Suhuyini, bring us home.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for the initiative and the suggestions to include technology into this novel initiative. I think it is in line with some of the proposals that the NDC is making to tackle even the issue of galamsey using technology, where you map up some of these areas that are at risk and closely monitor them. With that, I'm sure we can improve the question of accountability in the number of trees that are planted and in the number of trees that have survived after the planting exercise. But I just want to also conclude by saying that we do not need to duplicate some of the efforts that the Forestry Commission over the years have been engaged in terms of improving our forest landscape. Because, for example, I heard Benjamin speak of the intentions this year to include farms. The Forestry Commission already has an initiative known as Trees on Farms. And every year they spend money, improving the vegetation on farms, working with farmers across the country. So there's no need for us to use this Green Ghana initiative to duplicate that effort. It should be seen to be complementing it and not duplicating it. I think that what is important is for us to make the exercise more transparent and make it more accountable, so that at the end of the day, we are all assured that we are getting value for money. And we also need our government in other areas, say in areas of policy, in areas of action, to be seen to be reflecting the intentions behind this Green Ghana initiative. But because you cannot be seeking to be growing trees to improve our vegetative cover, and yet be doing other things that damage even more than you are seeking to create. And I think that that is what we currently are facing. And sometimes I wonder how the president feels when he attends some of these programs, like the one that you just showed us, knowing very well at the back of his mind that other things that he has done and has signed to or promoted are devastating the environment even more than this event is seeking to contribute to the improvement of the environment.
All right. Thank you so much for those final thoughts. Interesting thoughts there, Benjamin.
Very interesting. I have a comment coming through. Papa Yenzu Kwanza from Kwesi Mintim. He says, good morning. Humbly, I am enjoying the discussion. After planting the trees, what happens next? Most of the trees die off because they lack water, he says. And so after planting, what next? The planting is not the problem, but taking good care of them is the question we are asking ourselves. And many similar messages coming through. But leaves you with a lot of food for thought. I always say, this country, we like elsewhere, if 1 million is spent or even 100,000 is spent, you must account for how every last dollar, penny, whatever was spent. Here, they'll give you blanket figures and expect you to understand. When you ask for the fine print, they'll be telling you different things. But anyway...